and don't convict, send the killer cops to jail, the whole damn system.
We're here today to say that we're outraged at the atrocities that have been going on in Chicago and many other cities in our nation. You know, Black and Latino youth are under attack, and we saying that they have a target on their backs, their lives are under threat, and this has to stop. They're being killed by the police senselessly for no reason.
We want to send a very powerful message.
Laquan McDonald was killed last night, yesterday, on 41st and Pulaski. Shot, alleged by the media that he was shot one time in the chest because he had some kind of look and they thought that he had a weapon.
We come to find out this young brother was shot 8 times. 8 times.
We can't just accept what the gatekeepers in the media are telling us about these deaths. We have to look further into these situations.
This is PINAC News.
Hi, this is James MacArthur, and this commentary is being done for PNACnews.com. Photography is not a crime. The release of the video showing the killing of Laquan McDonald by that Chicago police officer whose name I still do not feel the need to mention much at this point. I don't want to make him famous. I rather mention the name of the deceased, a young man, 17 years old, who was dead and didn't need to be dead. If you want to find out the name of the Chicago officer, you can Google it. You know, when his trial comes up, you know, we'll talk about him then. But I want to broaden the scope of the conversation, and I also, you know, want to lift up the name of the victim, because that's what's important right now. What's also important is that we continue to have discussions about this and not let it just be a short news cycle where it's here today, gone tomorrow. There are so many implications to just what happened there in Chicago. Not just the incident as it happened, but the after actions that were taken. All across the nation, there are conversations on body cameras and dash cameras and these things. And as more departments move towards deploying them, we have to realize one critical thing. What happens to the footage? Who has rights to the footage? It is so important to understand that just because something is recorded, first of all, it doesn't prevent misconduct. It just records it. And what good is a recording if no one ever gets to see it? It goes back to the old proverb, you know, if a tree falls in the wood and doesn't make a sound, does it make a sound at all? Or, you know, something like that. I know I just butchered that. But it is important to understand that this video that so many have seen, this shocking video, was suppressed for over a year. They decide to release it, and now they decide to file criminal charges against the officer. So what if this video had never been released? What if the independent journalist who filed a successful lawsuit to get it released, what if he hadn't done that? What if he had lost? We would have a killer cop still on payroll who got away with murder, which can still happen depending on what the outcome of the trial. I'm hopeful that there will be justice served for Laquan McDonald and his family. So we have to understand that when these officials that are called leadership in your city talk about we're going to put in body cams and these things, it's more than just you put them in. We need to have policies and procedures in place where this footage belongs to the people. If the police are there to serve and protect the people, all of their actions should be subject to public scrutiny, particularly a video of something that has already happened. So it's disturbing to learn that, yeah, the charges were not filed until the video was coming out. Now there are allegations that Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel may have had a lot to do with suppressing the video because he was mayor. He was running for re-election at that time, and that type of thing could have totally disrupted the outcome, the direction of the elections. These are rumors that are being thrown around, but, you know, politics is a dirty, dirty, dirty game. And the popularity of any particular candidate can turn on a dime. One singular incident can change everything. Of course, Rahm is an elected official put in by a mandate of the people. Chicago Police Superintendent McCarthy is not. He is an at-will employee. And the fact that he hasn't done the honorable thing and resigned, which is what you're supposed to do when those beneath you have failed miserably, because ultimately the buck stops there with you, he should be fired. That's my opinion. Because you had officers that were complicit. They knew what happened was dead wrong. They were there. They know that Laquan McDonald did not lunge at the officer like was alleged in his report. He was walking away. So those officers there, they're complicit in the conspiracy. Those who deleted the footage from the Burger King, which would have provided additional video and a different angle, also complicit in the conspiracy. The people who sat on the video and refused to release it, which that goes pretty high up the chain, also part of the conspiracy. So as you can see, this is not just a bad apple. If it's a bad apple, then it came from a rotten tree, because this thing is rotten right down to the roots, that a young man would be killed in cold blood like that. And, you know, we have a whole agency that tried to conceal this from the public, and all we had was the propaganda narrative version of what really happened. You see, for years now, I've been doing this stuff and watching and following these police-involved shootings, as they're called, erroneously, by the way. And one of the things that always jumped out to me is a lot of times when it's a questionable shoot, you know, before video became so popular, and we still have many shootings where there's no video, you would hear, well, a weapon was recovered at the scene. Now, words matter. Lots of people are armed and have weapons on them, but does that necessarily mean that the weapon was pointed at an officer, was intended for an officer, the person did anything with it, even wielded it or brandished it? Not necessarily, but so many times with the mainstream media and by extension the public, who just consume that pablum with delight, that's all that's needed. A weapon was recovered at the scene. Well, there it is. Case closed. He must have had it coming. He must have deserved it. But we're somewhere else now. Now that we're seeing these videos of these things, we have more and more of the American public willing to accept, at least in concept, that, you know what, maybe the police are very wrong, dead wrong in a lot of these situations. It took a while. It started with the lone voices like myself and others, then the activists who became really loud and joined their voices together in chorus, and then finally mainstream media started giving this a little bit more of the type of coverage it deserved. It reminds me of the church sex abuse scandals, which was denied by the church itself for so long, just like the police deny that they have a problem. But eventually things got to where, you know, the evidence became so damning that the church had to admit they had a problem. The public is no longer in denial. Even people who are church supporters who go to church and so on and so forth, they don't defend and deny the abuse that's going on, which is where we still are with police misconduct and abuse. You have a lot of people, oh, they're trying to keep us safe, they're there to protect us. That's irrelevant to the misconduct. The priests are there trying to serve people as well. They're the good ones, right? But that doesn't justify the absolute despicable, dastardly deeds being done by those sick, demented, twisted individuals. We have to learn to start separating things as a people, as a nation, if we're going to continue to have growth, and if we're going to heal some of the great hurt that's ripped this country apart in recent times. For some of the folks who like to be critics and who are always pro-police, well, you don't know how tough the job is, and, you know, it's a dangerous job. First of all, a little bit of background for those who don't know. I'm combat trained, military. I also have law enforcement tactical training. I have had guns pulled on me. Thank God, successfully disarmed them. I've had knives pulled on me, successfully disarmed them as well. I have been shot. I have been stabbed. Separate incidents, not the same ones where I just was able to disarm the attacker. So I do know what it is, and I do know what I'm talking about, and I do have experience in this arena. So again, you know, try your arguments elsewhere. There is absolutely no justification for what we saw on that video, period. If Laquan McDonald was a danger to other people or the officers, it would be one thing. Maybe it would have gone there, but it didn't. We don't shoot to kill based on what maybe, sort of, could have, maybe had. He has a knife, you're in a vehicle. You don't have to engage. You can observe from the safety of your vehicle, wait for backup, come up with a better plan, attempt non-lethal, weaponry, containment. There's so many procedures that proper training and the right mindset shows how this could have been handled differently. The solution isn't always just shoot to kill, man. It just isn't. If somebody's walking down the street with a knife in their hands, you can box them in with your cars, put the window up. There's just so many different things. But we have this mindset where the lives really don't matter. It really is us versus them in the minds of many. And, you know, at every instance, we just must be eliminated and wiped out. This is a young man who had PCP in his system, obviously was in the midst of a mental crisis, and really should have been, at some point, safely apprehended, gotten the treatment, long-term treatment that he needs, and, you know, charged and then given a trial. That's how our system works. It doesn't work where the police just get to be judge, jury, and executioner. So with that, we wrap up this commentary here. I think this is my second or third one that I've done on the Laquan McDonald murder. But it's a conversation I want to keep going. I want this to not go away, because for years these things have been happening, and we've mostly never had video of the incident with the clarity and detail that we have in the case of Laquan McDonald, shot 16 times, including while on the ground. Walking away, he was not a threat. On the ground, he was not a threat. But this officer unloaded his weapon on someone who was never advancing on him. That's cold-blooded. And by God, I hope that an appropriate fate of justice and ultimately the karma that this universe meets out, when you reap what you sow, I hope that finds that officer in due time. For PNACnews.com, I'm James MacArthur.
This is PNAC News.